Right. Where were we?
Inappropriate attention.
Yeah. We're inappropriately at inappropriate attention. The point of what we're talking about there in terms of inappropriate attention, in terms of ignorance, which creates inappropriate attention, which then creates delusions, which then create karma, which then leads to suffering, that's what samsara is, isn't it? That's the evolution of samsara. That's the condition or the position, the situation, which, if you have the second level of renunciation corresponding to the middle scope of the Lam Rim, that's what you're renouncing. You're renouncing samsara. You're renouncing that whole pattern of ignorance leading to inappropriate attention, leading to delusions, leading to suffering. And of course, the essence of that is, in terms of what it means, is that you will come to the understanding that as long as I believe in a truly existent self, as long as I hold on to it independently, me, there's no other alternative but for suffering. There's no option. There's no way out. And the way we do that, I mean, it's when you think about it practically. When you really get into the depths of how we cling to a self, it's almost like we don't actually even consciously think of a self. Just everything we do and everything we think, and that is the self. You don't think I'm going to do this, or you don't really think that's happiness which I'm experiencing, or I'm remembering, or that's me remembering this, or that's me being not liking that, or that's me. No, it's I like that. I don't like that. I remember that. It's there in the centre of everything we do, isn't it? And that's in terms of the root of ignorance, in terms of what really we're talking about, the self, the truly existent self, which is that root of ignorance. It's so deeply ingrained that you don't even think that now I'm feeling happy. You don't even make that division. It's just, I'm happy. Because the I is so intricately mixed with the emotions that it's not like there's a me and an emotion. It's just me. I'm happy. I'm sad. I remember. It's so deeply ingrained in there, and that's once you get this level of renunciation of the whole of samsara. That's what you've got to renounce. That's what you've got to understand is the root of suffering. As long as we keep on acting like that, as long as we keep on being our feelings and emotions and desires, and as long as we keep on being those things, that's samsara. That is samsara. So the second level, if you take these three very arbitrary categories which I've been trying to talk about, the first one is, what is it you're renouncing in the second? What are you renouncing in the second level here? Or the middle level, really. What are you renouncing? Samsara, isn't it? Samsara, basically. The second would be, what would be and this is really, again, I'm not doing this from any particular source. If we allow ourselves to have a category, which is how would a person who has that renunciation act? And in the first one, we say, how would a person who's given up on this life, how would they act? They wouldn't be at all affected by the eight worldly dharmas, is how we'd say it, wouldn't it? For this level, what would a person like that, what would their daily actions consist of?
They'd be very ethical. Because they're taking martial arts.
Well, that would be the first one, wouldn't it?
Oh, okay, right.
Strong concentration and stability.
They'd want to get that for sure. Yeah. I mean, they'd you're on along the right lines though, and not just that, is it? If you do it according to the Lamb Rim, if you look at it,
Rising, studying, independent mind.
well, they do all that as well, but that's all contained in this. What's the thing at the end of the middle scope of the Lamb Rim that it's advised you? What's the,
Dependent arising.
not just that, is it? Yeah, and how? What's the practice that's what?
You practice is through wisdom, the wisdom of seeing emptiness.
Not just that though, is it? What's the particular thing at the end of the middle scope of the Lamb Rim that is said to be the solution to the renunciation that comes at the middle scope? What training is it?
Mind training.
No. No. When you get to the mark of being a person who's at the middle scope of the Lamb Rim, right? You renounce samsara. What is the practice you're advised to do to deal with that?
Yourself as a person, rather than a phenomenon.
Not necessarily that. What's that?
Is it the exchange in the self now?
No, because that's not that level, is it? That's the higher level. Fiona, you were nearly there, at least one of them.
I didn't hear what you said, Fiona. What did you say?
I remember. I think concentration.
Concentration, that's one of them. It's one of them.
Effort,
No,
concentration, wisdom.
you're getting there. That's two of the three.
Concentration, meditation.
And what's the other one?
Ethics, concentration,
Which are?
three high
Three higher trainings, yes. the three higher trainings is what, when you get to that point in the Lamb Rim, the middle scope, what is a practitioner? If you divide the middle scope into what is uniquely the middle scope practitioner and what is a middle scope practitioner in common with the upper scope, then someone who is uniquely a middle scope practitioner, to what were they aiming to be achieved? What you've already said, to be an arhat. And what leads to arhatship? The three higher trainings. Yeah. So morality, concentration and wisdom. So that would be the practices of someone. That would be the practice of someone who is just staying at that point, uniquely to the middle scope, to the renunciation of samsara, wouldn't it? But of course, if you're not doing it uniquely, if you're doing it in common with, ready to, as preparation, if you like, to reach the higher path, the higher scope, then you'd still have renunciation, you still have morality, concentration and wisdom, but you're doing it with a longer aim to do it for all living beings, wouldn't you? So it would be like that. So that would be what someone who's renounced samsara. In other words, it's more than that, though, isn't it? If you practically think about someone who has renounced samsara, they will be extremely. I mean, if you look at Hinayana practitioners who are said to be stream enterers or so forth, their practice is principally watching their mind all the time, isn't it? Because you realise that all your problems are coming from your mind, they're coming from delusions, and that you have that it's no good just giving up on the things of this life. That's not enough. You've got to give up on the delusions in your mind. Therefore, you need to be expertly mindful of your mental, what's going on in your mind, basically, isn't it? So to avoid the delusions like that. So, we could, you can therefore envisage what someone who was reached this level of renunciation, what they'd be like. They would be someone who wasn't allowing delusions to overcome them at any point, wouldn't they? The great Kadamba masters, you hear stories of those. Never for a moment allowing a delusion to arise, or if you do, immediately stop it. The Ben, what's his name? Geshe Ben Phunyu-Mijik. The one he was a thief. You heard the stories in that? Was it Ben Gil or something? Yeah. He was a thief in his early life, and then he became a monk and was very strict, and his particular practice was to watch out for the delusions, always be in the watching the delusions. And you know the story where someone came to his hut, meditation hut, and I can't remember how it goes, but there was something there, and it wasn't the person brought with them, and the person went out to the room to the toilet, and while he was out, he found himself trying to steal the object that belonged, just out of past habits of being a thief, and he caught himself. A thief. He grabbed his arm like that, and the person rushed back in. Where's the thief? Here's the thief. But he was watching, because he was watching his mind, or they were watching, and so much so that he was aware of every delusion as it arose. So that would be someone who has that level of renunciation, wouldn't it? Now, what's the practice that such a person does? What leads to renunciation of samsara? And again, this comes in the Lamb room. Principally two different methods.
One is the disadvantages of the higher rebirths. Being born in
That comes into it, but it's not the principal things. There are said to be two methods to generate renunciation of the whole of samsara. One is supposed to be easier than the other one more difficult. What are they?
Well, you just said practicing mindfulness.
Yeah, that comes into it, but it's not one of the two methods. No? They're very well-known teachings of the Buddha.
Dependent origination.
No,
Is it exchanging self?
no. That's a different level, isn't it? What's the most famous teaching of the Buddhas in Buddhism?
Four Noble Truths.
Four Noble Truths, yes. First method is the Four Noble Truths. The whole way the Four Noble Truths are taught and designed is to develop renunciation of samsara, isn't it? Why is that so? Because what you'll hear, and I'm sure you've heard before, although maybe not retained, is that there were 3 recitations of the Four Noble Truths when the Buddha taught them. You've heard that? Well, actually, Dago Rinpoche talked about it, I think, didn't he? He did, yes, when we were here. The first one is by way of entity. I can't remember if I used the right word when I was translating before, but entity is what it should be, by way of entity. So when the Buddha first taught the Noble Truth, he did what are the Four Noble Truths? This is the truth of suffering, this is the truth of the origin, this is the truth of cessation, and this is the truth of the path, the Four Noble Truths, by way of entity. But of course, that doesn't tell you what you're supposed to do with it. So that's why that's not enough, to just give the entity, well, this is the noble truth of suffering. Where does suffering come from? It comes from the noble truth of origin of suffering. What happens if you get rid of the origin? You lead to sensation. What is the way to reach sensation? The path. The Four Noble Truths come in the way that you've got suffering and the cause of suffering are cause and effect, aren't they? Which one's the cause and which one's the effect?
The origin is the cause.
Origin is the cause and suffering is the effect. So when you look at the Four Noble Truths, actually they're the wrong way around, aren't they? The suffering is first, and then origin of suffering is the second, which is the wrong way around. Actually, it should be the other way, shouldn't it? So why is it that way around? From the point of view of practice, actually, isn't it? It's practice, yeah. From the point of view of practice, you need to recognise the suffering and then want to know where it's coming from. Exactly. So because of that, because the entity of the Four Noble Truths is not enough, you need to know what you then do with the Four Noble Truths. So the Buddha taught the Four Noble Truths by way of entity, and then by way of, how do you translate? I think I did it there. Through through the way in which they're performed, or the way they're acted. How does one act upon the Four Noble Truths? I think is the best way of translating it. How does one act upon the Four Noble Truths? And so in the second recitation of the Four Noble Truths, what did the Buddha say? He said suffering is to be understood, exactly. The cause of suffering, to be abandoned. The cessation of suffering, actualized or realized, and the path, to be followed or meditated on or practiced, yeah. So that is the way by what you do. again, the whole, from that point of view, the Four Noble Truths also are conjoined with the four foundations of mindfulness. It's amazing how so much the interaction and it's almost incestuous, the Dharma, because there's so much which is connected here, there, and everywhere. The four foundations of mindfulness can be aligned with the Four Noble Truths. What's the first foundation of mindfulness? Mindfulness of body, isn't it? That aligns with the truth of suffering. How? Because the truth of suffering, what is the truth of suffering? It's basically the contaminated aggregates, isn't it? That's suffering. What do we mean by suffering? Basically anything within samsara is suffering, but the principle, the main thing we're thinking about in suffering is our contaminated aggregates, which include the body, obviously. So mindfulness of the body is aligned with the truth of suffering. What's the next one?
Feelings.
Body, feeling, exactly, feelings. Why do feelings correspond with the truth of the origin of suffering? Quite obvious, really.
Delusions.
Yeah, because out of feelings, delusions come. Out of pleasant, unpleasant, and neutral feelings come the delusions of attachment, aversion, and ignorance, don't they? Aversion comes from an unpleasant feeling, attachment comes from a pleasant feeling, and ignorance comes from a neutral feeling. So the mindfulness of feeling it corresponds with the second level. Then you've got, what's the next one? Mindfulness of
Thoughts is one.
mind or thought, yeah. How does that align with the truth of sensation?
That's what you've got to work with to get you there.
I think it's a bit more convoluted how those two are connected, but basically it's that where does cessation happen? It happens in the mind, doesn't it? It doesn't happen anywhere else. Cessation is not a place, or it's to indicate that. Cessation is not a place that you go to or a pure realm or whatever else. It's the cessation of delusions in the mind is what we mean by cessation, isn't it? So that's how it's aligned. And the last mindfulness is
Dharmas.
phenomena. And how are they aligned with the path, truth of the path?
The Four Noble Truths are in there, aren't they? One of the big factors is if other dharmas is
That's true.
meditate on the Four Noble Truths.
That's true. But here we're talking about particularly how the phenomena, the mindfulness of phenomena, aligns with, or how we connect it with, the truth of the path. Yeah, I mean, it's the answer. I don't know. I'm sort of just, it's conjecture, really. I know these things are aligned, and I know that the four foundations of mindfulness are aligned with the Four Noble Truths. And I probably did have to answer this in debate once, but I've forgotten what it was. So I'm just guessing, really. I'm trying to remember what it is. But my feeling is this, and this is actually a very important way to look at our practice and the path. And that is, all phenomena, we're talking about mindfulness phenomena here, right? We're talking about the path to enlightenment. All phenomena can be divided into conventional and ultimate, can't they? Anything which exists is either a conventional truth or an ultimate truth. Yes or no? Agree? So that's a conventional truth, but the emptiness of that is an ultimate truth, isn't it? And you can say the same for any existent phenomena. The person, the table, the phone, the mala, whatever it is, there are two sides to it. Now, the conventional and ultimate truth, because all phenomena are condensed into conventional and ultimate truth, we also say that conventional and ultimate truth constitute out of the bases, and hopefully you've all at least heard this way of showing things. Out of the bases, you've heard basis, path and fruit.
Yeah.
You've heard that way of presenting things, yes? There's a basis, there's a path, there's a fruit. Yes? No, yes? Good. Out of those three, the two truths are the bases. Why are the true truth the bases? Because they're what we're working with, aren't they? Why are we working with those two? Because of conventional truths, in other words, people, sentient beings, feelings, phenomena, because of those things, the basis of one side of the path is there. Which side of the path would that be? If we divide the path into two, what are the two? How do we divide the path into two? What are the two wings of the bird?
Method and wisdom.
Method and wisdom, right. So when we divide the path into two, we've got method and wisdom. The conventional truths are the basis of which of those two? No, not wisdom. Nearly right. There's only one or two. Conventional truths are the basis of method, aren't they? How can you be compassionate towards others if all you're seeing is the emptiness of everyone? You can't really, can you? You need to see the suffering. You need to see the people. You need to see, how can you be generous when all you're doing is thinking about the emptiness of the money or the thing, or whatever you're giving? You can't, can you? You need conventional truth to be generous. You need conventional truth to be ethical, because if you don't have if there's not conventionally other living beings, ethics depends upon others, doesn't it? And if all you're seeing is the emptiness of others, why be ethical? It's just emptiness. Emptiness depends upon, ethics or being moral depends upon seeing the conventional world and the conventional people in it. And the same is true of, so what have you got? Generosity, morality, patience. Same thing with patience, isn't it? Out of the 6 perfections, how many of them are conventional truths and how many ultimate truth? 5 conventional and 1 ultimate, isn't it? So all the first 5 are conventional, and all of those, so generosity, morality, patience, joyful effort, and concentration, those 5 all require, if you think about it, conventional truth to work, don't they? So you see how the basis, which is the 2 truths, leads to the path, because the conventional truth leads to all the method side of the path. And of course the ultimate truth leads to what? The wisdom side of the path, yeah. Because what is the wisdom side of the path? It's meditation on emptiness, isn't it? It's meditation on the non-true existence. So because of the conventional truth, you can have method, and because of ultimate truth, you have wisdom. So now, because all phenomena are condensed into, and if you carry on that through, actually, just to complete that picture, basis, path, and fruit. The basis is the 2 truths. The path is what? Method and wisdom. The fruit is what? What's the fruit? Well, more than that, you've got to give 2, because we're giving 2 in each place, aren't we? We're giving 2, the basis is 2, the path is 2, we've got to give the result as 2 as well. Rupakaya and Dharmakaya, yes. The wisdom body of the Buddha and the form body of the Buddha. How do they align with the 2 parts of the path and the 2 truths? Where do, exactly. What is the form body of the Buddha? The form body of the Buddha is what manifests out of the Dharmakaya and shows itself to others to help them. It's the manifestation of the Buddha's compassion, actually, isn't it? Because the Buddha has ultimate compassion or great compassion of bodhicitta, then he manifests the form body. So the form body, which is the result, comes with, where it comes from? It comes from the method side of the path, doesn't it? And that method side of the path comes from conventional truth. So sometimes they call the form body the conventional body, because it's the body that shows itself conventionally, shows itself to others. And then obviously the Dharmakaya, which is the wisdom body, comes from the wisdom side of the path, right, which comes from ultimate truth. But do you see how, so each part of the path, from basis, path and fruit, one leads to the other, one enables the other, like that. And how all that comes down to all phenomena. So therefore, why is it that mindfulness of phenomena aligns with the path? Because the basis of the path is all phenomena. Why? Because all phenomena are combined into conventional and ultimate truth, aren't they? One of the ways of talking about all phenomena is conventional and ultimate truth, yes? So, now how do we get to that? Four Noble Truths. So, yes, which align with the Four Noble Truths, yeah.
Before that would be the recitation of the Four Noble Truths, and that came into
Okay, yes, right, yeah. So the what you do, what you do with the Four Noble Truths. And then the final recitation of the Four Noble Truths is what? Again, I translated, so I can... it's through non-existence. The way of expressing the Four Noble Truths through non-existence, or through emptiness, or through... Well, let's say what they are first. The last recitation of Four Noble Truths, what is it? This is the truth of the path. This is the truth of the path, although there is no path. This is the truth of this is the truth of suffering, although there is no suffering. This is the truth of origin, although there is no origin. This is the truth of cessation, although there is no cessation. This is the truth of the path, although there is no path. Now, do you remember, those of you who are paying attention during Jackie Rinpoche's teachings, what that means? That there's two interpretations of that? Two ways to interpret that there's no path, there's no suffering, there's no origin of suffering, there's no... It says it in the Heart Sutra, doesn't it? There's no suffering, no cause of suffering, no cessation, and no path.
So it exists conventionally, but not ultimately.
They don't
No
also...
inherently existent
Either one of those, yes. There's no...
suffering, origin, cessation, or power.
Right. So that's one explanation. What's the other one? The one explanation of that third recitation of the Four Noble Truths is that there is suffering, but suffering doesn't inherently exist. There is cause of suffering, but the cause of suffering doesn't inherently exist, etc., etc. What's the other explanation? Anybody? No? You weren't paying attention in Dagger Rinpoche. The other one is that once you've understood suffering, there's no more suffering to understand, isn't it? Once you've removed the origin of suffering, then there's no more origin to remove. In other words, once you've done it, you've done it. That's what it's really saying. Once you, that's the thing that always comes up about, any other work you do, samsaric work, never has no end to it, does it? There's never an end to trying to become rich again, or have a house, or fix things externally. You never finish doing it. You never finish fixing the car, do you? Because you fix one time, and then within a short time it's going to go wrong again. So you've got to fix it again. There's no end to fixing a car. There's no end to fixing the body. The body just goes wrong again and again, doesn't it? There's no end to fixing it. But there isn't, and this is where Dharma practice and why teachers say and the texts say so often, worldly work, samsaric work, has no end, but dharmic work does. Dharma work does, because once you've removed the cause of suffering, it's gone forever. You don't have to do it again. So once the origin, once the cause of suffering is understood or removed, it's finished. It's gone. Once cessation is achieved, you've achieved it. You don't need to do it again. It's been achieved. And once the path has been meditated on, you don't need to do it. It's like the boat, isn't it? The boat example. Carrying, once you've gone over the river in the boat, you don't need the boat anymore, exactly.
Oh,
Yeah. So the way to bring about this second level of renunciation is either through the Four Noble Truths, because the Four Noble Truths are showing us how, as long as we have, again, it's a cause and effect thing, isn't it? As long as you have the cause of suffering, you will have suffering. It's not you might have suffering, or maybe there'll be suffering, or there'll be the occasional suffering. If you've got the cause of suffering, then you will have suffering. Of course, no way out. And that's what brings renunciation, isn't it? If you really think about that, then you can see, as long as I carry on having delusions in my mind, as long as there's anger arising every now and then, as long as I'm holding, as long as I'm thinking, not just there's a happy feeling in my mind today, or there's a happy feeling. If I'm trying to imagine or describe how it might be if you had no self involved in there would just be a happy feeling, wouldn't there? There wouldn't be. But as long as we have I'm happy, or I'm unhappy, or I'm having problems, or as long as that's there, that's a truly existent self, isn't it? As long as that's there, it's delusion, it's ignorance. It's not conforming to reality. Now, and therefore, as long as I have that, I will create delusions. That is a delusion, and I will create delusions. And as long as that happens, there will be suffering. What's the thing, the really important thing with delusions in this context, and his Holiness is often talking about this nowadays, he talks about it, or I don't know about it, right, but he used to talk about it a couple of years ago a lot. When we talk about delusions or afflictive states of mind, we say they're afflictive because they cause suffering, yes? They disturb the mind now. Remember I was saying earlier, it disturbs the mind now, it creates a karmic pathway whereby there'll be more disturbance in the future, etc. What's the other reason why delusions are wrong or destructive? What's the other fault of delusions? The first fault of delusion is they cause suffering. What's the other one? And we did mention it, someone did mention it earlier.
They're not in line with reality.
Exactly. And in that, then
In line with reality.
they're wrong. And for me, I've always found this one of the most inspiring parts of Dharma, of the Dharma explanation. His Holiness uses in this context, and I'm sure you've heard or remember him saying this because he said it a number of times. He quotes the scientist, and he tells a story often in his teaching because he always tells it he said he's an old guy with grey hair, he goes. That's how I don't know whether you get it in translation very well, but when he says it, it's really funny the way he says it. Old guy, grey hair, scientist, and he did lots of experiments, and he said to me that through all his experiments, over many, many years, the result of all those experiments was that he'd understood that when someone's angry to somebody, that the object, the person to whom they're angry, is 90% a projection of the angry person's mind, and only 10% was actually there. Have you heard that? Mm-hmm. Yeah. The Holiness talks about it all the time. Of course, you know, from a Buddhist point of view, it's a lot more than 90%, isn't it? It's probably more like 99.9%. But the point of that, and the reason why he mentions it as a, you know, His Holiness mentions it as a site because he knows we as Westerners need a bit of scientific validation. Even though we're Buddhists, we still want it validated by our scientific theories. But the point of all that, anger is just an example. The thing is that all of those delusions, the fact that the reason that we call them delusions or afflictive states of mind is not just that they cause suffering, because they do cause suffering. That's not just what it is. The more I find, almost the more inspiring side of it is they cause suffering, and they're wrong. They're wrong. They're not seeing things the way they are. And the inspiring bit about that, you know, when you're angry with someone, it's a wrong consciousness. And if we do a thing on mind next year, we'll go into that more, what wrong consciousness means. But a wrong consciousness is if you come into this Gompa and say there's an elephant in here, you walk in here and I don't know, maybe you've been taking something and you say to it, look, there's an elephant, look, there's an elephant. It's a wrong consciousness, isn't it? There's definitely no elephant in this room. We're all pretty sure of that, aren't we? There's no elephant in this room. I'm talking about real elephants here, not pictures. There's definitely no elephant. Or when you another example of the rabbit horns is the one we use in the monastery all the time, rabbit horns. Because rabbits don't have horns, but they do have ears which look like horns. If you're a long way away from a rabbit, you might think he's got horns. The firebrand, when you're spinning something around like this and it appears to be a circle, but it's not a circle. It looks like that. It's wrong, isn't it? There's so many examples of wrong consciousness. The important thing about wrong consciousness, of course, is that their object doesn't exist. That's why they're wrong. The elephant in this room is why is it that you thinking there's an elephant in this room? Why is it a wrong consciousness? What makes it a wrong consciousness?
It's mistaken.
Yeah, what is it mistake? What is it's wrong? Why is it wrong? Because there is no elephant. The object of that consciousness doesn't exist. There is no elephant. And it's the same with rabbit horns. There are no rabbit horns. Same with the circle. There is no circle. There is merely the illusion of a circle. So therefore, what is it about wrong consciousnesses? Why are they wrong? Because their object doesn't exist. If you apply that to delusions, again, which I find so inspiring, if you apply that to delusions, when you're angry towards something, the thing you're angry with doesn't exist. It's an illusion. It's wrong. There's no thing out there you're angry. Why? What are you being angry at? That you're being angry at a non-existent thing. What are you attached to? You're attached to a non-existent. It doesn't exist. The thing your delusion is taking as an object is non-existent. So why would you become attached to a non-existent thing? Why would you be angry to an elephant which is not there? Ultimately it's the reason why delusions are always going to end up losing in the end. Why we're all going to be Buddhas eventually. We will definitely, because the things which are stopping us being Buddhas are wrong. They're incorrect. Now, if you look at the terms of the types of mind, delusions all have that nature that they're wrong. They don't see what's there. They see what you project to be there. Why is the same not case with non-delusions? Give me an example of a non-delusion. What's an emotion or a feeling or a thought which is not a delusion?
Love.
Love,
Compassion.
exactly. Love and compassion. Why are they not wrong? What's the difference between them and a delusion? What's the difference between love and attachment? In terms of the object, in terms of...
Well, the love doesn't disturb the mind.
It doesn't disturb the mind, therefore it's not a delusion. But in terms of what we've just been talking about, why is it different?
This would be an object, so you can have them for an object as it is. Attachment, you tend to project onto it because it hasn't actually got.
Exactly. That's the thing about positive emotion. That's why positive emotions are contradicted are different from negative ones. The object of negative emotions or afflictive emotions doesn't exist, but the object of positive ones does, doesn't it? Because when you feel love towards others, you don't need to project anything onto other people. People want to be happy. What's love? It's the feeling wanting others to be happy, isn't it? The wish for others to be happy. You don't have to project that onto others, because that's true. Others do want to be happy. Ultimately, we're not talking we're talking conventionally here. Conventionally, of course, others people want to be happy. Compassion. It's the wish for others to be free of suffering, isn't it? You don't have to project that. I don't have to project onto you that you want to be free of suffering. You do want to be free of suffering, don't you? It's no need for protection. You don't need to overlay anything on the world. You don't need to, it's not a wrong consciousness. That's the main point of it. It's not a wrong consciousness, it's correct. So now the really, really important thing about that differentiation between positive minds and delusions, or afflictive minds and non-afflictive minds, is it gives incredible hope, because compassion can be developed infinitely, they say, don't they? It can be developed, it can get stronger, it will get stronger and stronger. It will get stronger because it's got a valid base. The object it's looking at. If you believe there's elephants in this room, there's only one way that belief can go, and that's to deteriorate, isn't it? Because to deteriorate, to get less. Because if you go around looking, you can start pulling up the chairs and the cushions and the whatever else and looking for that elephant. The more you do that, the more you're going to realise there's no elephant, aren't you? But if you say, if you've got the consciousness that there's a microphone in this room, then the more you look, the more you're going to find it, aren't you? It's right, it's correct. So that's going to come strong. The idea, the thought in your mind that there is a microphone in this room will become stronger, because it will find the microphone and say, oh yeah, there absolutely is a microphone in this room. It can only get stronger, can't it? It can't get weaker. So the same is with positive emotions or positive mental factors, or if you like, and delusions. Delusions are always going to lose in the end. It's so hopeful, isn't it? It's not that we haven't got rid of delusions yet, but that point is so hopeful, so inspiring, because however dangerous and how horrible delusions are and how much suffering they cause, they're basically not valid. They're not genuine, not real. They're imputing onto the world, projecting onto the world, and therefore they're going to lose out in the end.
Can you just what you said about the 90%, 'cause
Hmm.
I kind of heard it and understood it, but it hasn't fixed in me. You know what I mean?
So this is
In a way.
a Western scientist.
Mm.
I don't know his name. It's Homeless. I don't think it's Homeless ever gives his name. I'm not sure. All I know is old and grey, because that's and he's done experiments to see what it is that when people are angry, if they're angry towards somebody else, what is it they're angry towards? Is it the person is it that person out there, or is it a projection of their mind that they're angry towards? And his conclusion of his experiments is that 90% of what you're angry towards when you're angry is your own mind, is your projection of your own mind.
Oh, thank you.
And only 10% is what's actually out there.
Okay.
Like that. So what it's showing is that delusions are wrong, basically, that they're projecting onto reality. So that's the first method we use to develop the second level of renunciation. What's the second method? Harder one. It's supposed to be harder, but it's like there's a similarity with bodhicitta, isn't there? When they talk about generating bodhicitta, they talk about two methods: the 6 causes and 1 effect, and exchange of self for others. Exchange of self for others is supposed to be much more effective, but much more difficult to practice, don't they? That's what they say. Whereas the 6 cause and 1 effect is supposed to be not quite so powerful as effective, but it's easier to practice. Similarly here, 4 Noble Truths are said to be, both of these are ways to join renunciation, but 4 Noble Truths are the more simple way. What's the more difficult way?
Dependent origination.
Yes, what in particular? What sort of dependent origination?
You're aiming for the selflessness of person, then right to try the root of it.
Can you speak up, Mr. I
Right.
can't
Uh,
hear you.
You're aiming for the selflessness of person, then right at the root of.
Not quite. No, not quite. There's another method here. What's another way of describing samsara other than the 4 Noble Truths? How do we describe our continued rebirth due to in contaminated aggregates due to... Yeah, and what's another way of explaining psychic existence, the evolution of it?
Or reminders.
Keep going. You getting there? What is it in the wheel of life?
Existence and wheel of life.
The 12 links.
Yeah.
The 12 links. 12 links.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's what I meant.
Okay. The 12 links are an explanation of the evolution of samsara, aren't they? From ignorance comes compositional factors, comes consciousness. etc. I was thinking we might go into the 12, but we're not going to have time. We're at the end, so we're not going to have time to go into them in detail. But they are. No, I don't. There's no point of me beginning because it's just.
Is that what by His Holiness called? That's a really good explanation.
Meaning of life.
Meaning of life.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
If anybody wants to
Meaning of
read
life.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a copy in the library, The
Oh,
Meaning
right.
of Life.
There
It's
it
a
is, yeah.
really clear and detailed explanation of the 12 interdependent links of origination.
And in the bookshop too.
Yeah. Oh, is it?
Basically, the links to dependent can be done in 2 lives or 3 lives, very, very quickly. 2 lives, they can come over 2 lives, or they can come over 3 lives. Minimum 2 lives, maximum 2 lives, isn't it? Minimum is 2, maximum 3. But the reason why both the 4 Noble Truths and particularly the 12 links of dependent arising lead to renunciation, and as I said, we don't have time to go into it, but if we did, it would hopefully become a bit more clear. The essence of the 12 links of dependent origination and this is also true for the Four Noble Truths, is that if you've got one, you will have the next. And if you've got that, you'll have the next. In other words, if you've got ignorance, you will have compositional factors. If you've got compositional factors, you will have consciousness, both, what do they call it? There's the result time consciousness, and there's I can't remember how you call the other one. There's two types of consciousness. There's the one which the karma is put on, like now, and then the result time. Anyway, Anyway, the point is there, and the reason why 12 links should develop renunciation in you is that you see from that as long as I'm ignorant, I'm going to have this. I'm going to have compositional factors. As long as I have compositional factors, there will be consciousness which will lead to, as we were saying earlier, lead to this. What does it mean? It means it leads to this karmic pathway where I'm going to suffer.
You mean like the domino effect?
Almost, yes. It is almost like that, isn't it? It's like, I dislocate my shoulder, then I am going to suffer. Assuming I don't die first, I'm going to suffer from that. There's no way out. They are intimately linked. One will follow the other.
Is that second link compositional factors the same as the second? Is it fourth aggregate? That's also
Not quite, no. No, it's not exactly the same, no.
I think it was.
No. It's a particular type of compositional factors, which is karma, basically, yeah.
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 I thought
Yeah.
it was karma.
Yeah. So, as I say, we don't have time to go into it, but that's what the 12 links should do. If you want to develop renunciation of samsara, you do so either through thinking about the Four Noble Truths, which in essence is the same thing, or the 12 links. It's just that the 12 links show it in a more intricate, detailed fashion, don't they? The 12 links are just the fact that you're stuck in samsara because of this and this and this and this. And the Four Truths are saying the same, aren't they? We're stuck in suffering. Why? Because of the truth that causes suffering. But the 12 links are extending that and showing what actually happens. One dun 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 dun. That if you have this, you have this, and if you have this, you have this. And therefore, if you're in that, no way out. One will inevitably follow from the other. Therefore, the way that one, practically speaking, the way that you, I would imagine, develop renunciation, or create the sense of renunciation in your mind, is simply through understanding of that. As long as I'm ignorant, I'm going to suffer. It's just, you can cut it down to that, really, can't you? As long as I'm ignorant, I'm going to suffer. Ignorance equals suffering. That's it in a nutshell, really, isn't it? So the understanding of the Four Noble Truths, or the understanding of the 12 links of dependent arising, both of them lead you to see why, if I have ignorance, do I suffer? Why is it that as long as I'm ignorant, because I generate inappropriate attention, and then attachment and aversion, and attachment and aversion cause disturbance in my mind, which creates a karmic pathway which will cause more disturbance, etc. So it's that system, understanding that system, and understanding that that as long as I'm in that, there's no freedom, there's no happiness, there's no real happiness. There's the temporary suffering of change, but there's no real happiness as long as you're in that thing. But the as when one talks about refuge, as I mentioned yesterday, that there's the two sides. There's the pessimistic side, and there's the stick and the carrot, isn't it? Really, there's the stick, which is that I'm stuck in this ignorance and I'm going to suffer because I've got disturbing emotions and all that. But the carrot, what's the carrot? The carrot is that if you didn't have ignorance, and if you didn't have delusions, which is eminently possible, because delusions are wrong. That's the great thing about wrong consciousness, isn't it? The wonderful thing about wrong consciousness is they can be corrected. Wrong things can be corrected. That's what's good about them, isn't it? Wrong things can be fixed. So if delusions are wrong, then they can be fixed. Then there must be a way of seeing things without projecting onto them. And that's seeing things properly. It's I was mentioned yesterday I think it was the people who are not here now, but I was mentioning yesterday the thing on Alan Watts. I saw from Alan Watts. Do you remember we were talking about that? And how you're looking at something and you can either see the faces or the vase. It's obvious, isn't it, in a way, that as long as if you're looking at this thing and you can only see either the vase or the faces, that you're not seeing it properly, that you're projecting on it. It's obvious, isn't it? Because you should be able to see everything that's there. If the face and the vase are both there, you should be able to see them both. Or you should not see either of them, one or the other. So it's from that example, it's a really, really good example. It shows you how that at the moment, with our delusions, we're projecting. We're not seeing what's there. We're seeing a projection of our own minds. We're not seeing what's there. And therefore, when the positive side of this, what does it mean to be free of that? It means you can see exactly what's there, rather than what you project to be there. And of course, that's possible because it's what's there, because that's true. That's real. That's valid. Whereas the projection is never valid. So, the positive side in terms of renunciation, therefore, the kick and the stick and the carrot. The stick is the fact that we're suffering because we've got delusions, but the carrot is this incredible potential we all have, or Buddha nature, whatever you want to call it, that we can get rid of all these things. We can get rid of all these things because they're wrong. Ignorance is wrong. Ignorance is seeing things mistakenly. Delusions are seeing things. So that's the sort of positive, the optimistic side of it, the Buddha nature side. That it's so possible. From every point of view that you look at it, logically or philosophically or whatever other way you look at it, it's so eminently possible to be free of delusion. To be free of delusions, and if you're free of delusions, you're free of suffering. It's as simple as that. Just as that understanding which generates renunciation is between, if I have delusions, I'm going to suffer, no way out. The same understanding should lead you to understand that if I don't have delusions, then I won't suffer. I no longer create the disturbance in my mind which cause suffering. I no longer create the karmic pathways which lead to suffering. The pathways that I create, it's not there's no karma when you're enlightened, there's still karma, isn't there? It's just pure karma, not afflicted karma. Afflicted karma is that which is based in delusion. Pure karma, which a Buddha has, he still does action. That karma just means action, doesn't it? So Buddha still does action, but they're pure actions because they just lead to happiness. They don't lead to suffering. So that's the carrot, if you like, and the stick and carrot. So that's the second. Now, quickly at the end, obviously, what's the final level of renunciation? We're not going to go into detail about it, but just to say what it is and what's the final level. If that's the middle scope, what's the next level?
Rejection, samsara, for the benefit of everybody.
Exactly. Bodhicitta and
Bodhicitta.
Now, in that scenario, what does it mean? What does renunciation mean? The heart of renunciation, and this is very, very relevant to again to our practice, and in fact, this came up when someone asked a question of Dagger Rinpoche when he was here, and he gave this answer, which is very simple. Where does self-compassion, if we're talking about compassion and feel sorry for others, have compassion for others, have love for others, have bodhicitta, what about self-compassion? And his answer was what? Self-compassion that's what renunciation is. That's self-compassion. The reason why self-compassion is not talked about, although it's not that, to a degree, as Westerners, we seem to have a bit more need for self-compassion than Easterners do some way, and I think that there is something in that as well. But basically, our need for it, or the fact that we don't think it's there enough, is due to the fact that we don't understand that in order to be compassionate towards other living beings, you've got to be compassionate to yourself, because otherwise how can you be compassionate to others? If you haven't renounced your own suffering, if you haven't recognised your own suffering, you can't do it for others. It's impossible, isn't it? And if you try and do it without first of all recognising your own suffering, you're going to go wrong. So, and So therefore, on the basis of that middle scope renunciation of your samsara, then you can actually have renunciation for all living beings samsara. So the mark of renunciation from the higher scope of point of view is what? It's wishing all sentient beings be free of what? Their karma and delusions, their samsara. It's that renouncing everybody's samsara. It's an amazing thought, really, isn't it? Incredible, so expansive you can't imagine. I renounce everybody's samsara, all living beings' samsara. Now I can't do that unless I've renounced my own samsara. Unless I've actually renounced samsara for myself, I can't do it for anybody else, can I? So once you've done it for yourself, then that second, the upper scope level of renunciation is renunciation for all living beings. And what is it within all living beings? It's their samsara. It's the karma and delusion is in their mind. What would be if we stick to our three categories, what would be the activity of someone who had that level of renunciation? Yes, it would be six perfections. In terms of practice, it would be bodhicitta and the six perfections, you're right. What would such a person look like? I think we just did a look up there, don't we? That's the difference, isn't it, between when it really comes to experiential and inspirational examples and teachers, isn't it? When it really comes down to it, renouncing samsara is amazing. It's better than most of us, I'm sure. Certainly I've achieved, and it's incredible to renounce samsara. Amazing thing to do. But to renounce samsara, and there are beings in Burma, Thailand, those Buddhist countries who've done that, and they're incredible beings. But as I think we were saying at lunch yesterday, the comparison between beings who've done that and beings who've renounced samsara for everybody, for all living beings, is that, isn't it? And when you renounce the activities of someone like Lama Zopa Rinpoche or His Holiness, they come out of that. That's where they come from, don't they? They come from that renouncing samsara for everyone. I want everyone to be free of samsara, and that's how that activity comes. And there's no comparison, actually, is there really, between a being who's living in that way, and if you look and a being who's just renounced samsara for themselves, there's no comparison. So obviously that level of renunciation. How do you get that? Just very quickly, if we stick to our three categories. What is that renunciation? It's renunciation of everybody's samsara. How does that manifest? It manifests as being a bodhisattva and practicing the six perfections. How do you achieve that? What's the method to do that?
Isn't the method practicing the six perfections?
Well, no, that's what you do once you've achieved it.
Activity.
That's the activity of a bodhisattva. But how do you become that? How do you become a bodhisattva? Exactly.
By
You generate bodhicitta.
The motivation.
Bodhicitta.
There's the two, aren't there? There's the aspiring and the actual.
Yeah, well, I mean, they're both bodhicitta. Once you've achieved bodhicitta, then the difference, there's lots of debate and different points of view from different texts actually, but aspiring bodhicitta is when you've got the aspiration to be a Buddha, that's bodhicitta. Engaging bodhicitta is on the basis of your bodhicitta, you then start engaging in the six perfections. That's engaging bodhicitta. But basically, how do you become someone who renounces samsara for everybody? You generate bodhicita. Simple as that, isn't it? Generate bodhicitta. And then you're on the Mahayana path.
So how do you generate bodhicitta?
We've had that, haven't we? The six causes and one effect, or the exchange of self for others. One of those two methods.
So that comes before you practice the six perfections?
Yes.
Right.
For us, we haven't yet generated bodhicitta. We say we've tried and practiced. We are training to practice the six perfections. We're trying. We have a semblance of practicing them, but the actual practice of six perfections doesn't happen until you're a bodhisattva.
Right. It's worth kind of thinking through the 6 perfections every day, isn't it?
Yeah, that absolutely, yeah.
Kind of, what was it you were saying before about like leaving an imprint or a...
Mm.
you think
That's why
about it.
that's why you're supposed to do a Lam Rim prayer every day as well, isn't it? The stages of the path every day, because it leaves the imprint. But again, generating bodhicitta depends upon renouncing samsara, doesn't it, for yourself? And renouncing whole of samsara for yourself depends upon renouncing this life, doesn't it? If you haven't renounced this life, then you can't renounce samsara, can you? And if you haven't renounced samsara, you can't renounce it for all sentient beings. So that progression of degrees of so one builds upon the other in that way. Go on.
How does this square with the Dalai Lama's prayer about that we keep doing it?
As long as space endures, you mean? That one. That's a prayer of a bodhisattva, isn't it?
Yes. How does renunciation square with?
Oh well, he wouldn't be making that prayer if he didn't have renunciation of samsara, because why would he want to stay to help living beings unless he had the understanding that living beings are suffering? And the understanding that living beings are suffering isn't that they're suffering just from a physical and mental, but for suffering from being in samsara. And so his understanding, his renunciation for himself, then gets applied to others, and renunciation for others understands the incredible suffering that others are undergoing, and because of that, then he wants to stay in samsara to help them, basically. Yeah. So, those 3 categories I've been mentioning, please don't quote them because they're probably just made up. well, maybe they come from somewhere, I don't know. I might have studied them at some point and forgotten it or whatever, but I think they sort of summarise on each different level. You've got what it means to give up on this life. What is the meaning of the lower scope renunciation? It's giving up on this life. What is the mark of having done that? You're no longer affected by the 8 worldly dharmas. What is the way of doing it? And I've forgotten myself now. What is the way of doing it? Precious human rebirth and death and impermanence, isn't it? Yeah. So that's the first one. Second one, what you're trying to do? You're renouncing karma and delusions. Yes. What are you giving up? You're giving up samsara, the whole of samsara. What's the mark of someone who's done that? Someone who has no wish for karma and delusion, watches their mind, and what's the method to do it?
Practicing the Four Noble Truths
Or
or
the 12 links.
Dependent origination.
Exactly. And then the last one, what is the meaning of the renunciation?
Renouncing
Samsara for all living beings. What's the manifestation of that? What is it? It's being a bodhisattva and practicing 6 perfections. And how do you achieve it?
By practicing the
By
6 perfections.
No, how do you achieve it?
Oh, okay.
By bodhicitta, yeah.
Exchanging self for others
Or 6 cause,
mind training.
1 effect. Yeah. No, not 7-point mind training. 6 causes, 1 effect.
Oh, how's that different then?
7-point mind training is a Lodron text. It's a mind training text. It leads to the same result, but it's a different cause, different practice. The point of mind training is to generate bodhicitta.
Isn't this 6 causes, 1 effect? All beings have been my mother. And
Yeah. But that's not the same as 7-point mind training.
isn't it?
No.
7-point mind training.
7-point mind training is things like put the blame on one thing.
Oh,
you know?
okay, sorry.
It's the Geshe Shekawa, isn't it? I think. Okay, so let's finish with a few minutes of meditation then.
And the activity is 6 perfections.
6 perfections, and the activity is about being a bodhisattva and the 6 perfections, yeah. Clear as mud, is it? Just finish with it.
When you said it's as simple as that.
Yes, well. let's just do it then. So just breathe for a minute first. And then just visualizing all living beings around you. Visualize people that are difficult, or your enemies in front, your friends and loved ones behind, your female relatives to your left and your male relatives to your right. And all other living beings, uncountable in number. The more expansive, the more huge and uncountable you can make other living beings, the better. Uncountable numbers of living beings around you, in all different forms, human and animal and lower realm, God realm, all their different forms. And just begin by equalizing, generating the mind of equanimity. From one's own point of view, others are equal in having been equally kind, equally been our mothers in previous lifetimes. From their point of view, they're equal in equally wishing to be happy and not wishing to suffer. And on the basis of that mind of equanimity, then try to generate the mind feeling close to others in whichever way works for you, seeing all beings as being your mother, having been your mother, or maybe seeing all beings as being ones, having been your child. Doesn't matter which way you do it, the point is just to generate that feeling of closeness. That however other living beings appear, kind or unkind, friendly or not friendly, or rich or poor, happy or not happy, doesn't matter how they appear. In essence, they're all incredibly close to us. They've been our friend, our mother, our children. And naturally, along with that feeling of closeness, is the understanding of how kind other living beings have been to one. How everything that we have depends upon others. Depends upon the kindness of others. And again, naturally, the wish to repay that kindness. which shows itself first of all in the form of love, a wish for them to be happy, wish for them to have all the happiness they wish for. And compassion, great compassion, the desire to be free, that they may be free of their sufferings, that they may have no more suffering, or all the causes of suffering. And again, what follows on from that thought, wishing them to be free from suffering, is understanding that since we've met the Dharma, that we've met such qualified teachers, able to study, fortunate enough to practice, that it's our responsibility, remembering their kindness, it's our responsibility to be able to give others happiness and take them away from all the sufferings and the causes of those sufferings. And then finally, that the understanding that while we remain limited, while we don't have the capacity of a Buddha, then there's very little we can do to help others. Whereas if we were unlimited, if we had the unlimited capacity of a Buddha, then we have enormous potential to help others. So generate that final thought of bodhicitta. May I quickly as possible reach the enlightened state of omniscience, to benefit every single one of my kind mothers. Try to generate that thought of bodhicitta, which has those two wishes combined, and hold your attention on that for a minute. then finally dedicate all the virtue from this weekend, from meditating, from listening, from studying, from thinking. The I, which is empty from its own side, may quickly achieve enlightenment, which has no true existence from its own side, and lead every single living being who have no existence from their own side into that enlightened state as quickly as possible. And for all that virtue, may any being, just by seeing me, hearing me, thinking about me, talking about me, being related to me in any way whatsoever, just by that, may they be free of all the lower realms immediately. May they achieve precious human rebirth, quickly generate renunciation, bodhicitta, wisdom, and quickly become enlightened. And all that virtue, dedicate it, give it freely, don't hold on to any for yourself, give it freely as a gift to all other living beings, that they may be happy and free from all suffering and its causes. May the Supreme Jewel Bodhicitta not yet arisen arise and grow, and that which has arisen not diminish but increase more and more. Janjo Zenjo Rinpoche Ma Ke Panan Ke Gyuj Ye Pan Yam Ba Me Ba Yang Gon Le Gon Du Pa Wa Jo Gang Ri Wa We Ko We Shi Gang Di Pen Dan De Wa Ma Lu Jung We Ne Chen Re Zi Wan Tenzin Gatsu Yi Jabi Ji De Ba Du Teng Gyu Chi. Do we happen to have the long life prayer? It's not in here, is it?
Long life prayer is on page 34, right?
No, that's the brief one. We want the long one.
I said long life prayer, so
Yeah.
I was just completely fooled by that.
The long life prayer. Do we have it?
I think there's still a piece of paper in there. Sheet of paper.
If not, I have a copy in English here, I think. No? Don't worry, I'll just read it and we can just on to us here. O Gurus and lines of Lamas, whom we have the deepest gratitude, you are the repository of the three secrets of body, speech and mind of innumerable Buddhas, who manifest in a miraculous way to each devotee according to his capacity. To you, who are the wish-fulfilling gems, the source of all virtue and good qualities, we offer our prayers with intense devotion, that our protector of the great land of snows, Tenzin Gyatso, upholder of the Dharma, the great ocean, may live for 100 eons. Pour on your blessings that his aspirations may be fulfilled. The Dharmadhatu, inexpressible reality that pervades all things like the heavens, immaculate, full of great bliss and transcendental wisdom, manifest like a cloud the numberless abodes of higher divinities, the mandalas of the heavenly beings. To all the higher forms of divine ones, the yidams, we offer our prayers with intense devotion that Tenzin Gyatso, protector of the great land of snows, may live for 100 eons. Pour on him your blessings that aspiration may be fulfilled. O you numberless Buddhas of past, present and future, who are masters of the 10 powers and teachers of the gods, whose attributes of perfection, free from defilements, are born of realization, are the source of Buddha activity that appears for all time in the ocean of the suffering of the world. For the sake of all sentient beings, we offer our prayers with intense devotion that Tenzin Gyatso, protector of the great land of snows, may live for 100 eons. Pour on him your blessings that his aspirations may be fulfilled. O sacred Dharma of the three yanas, which liberate us from the sufferings of the three worlds, supremely calm, the jewel treasure of the fully enlightened ones. Without impurities, unchanging, eternally good, the peak of virtues, we offer our prayers with intense devotion that Tenzin Gyatso, protector of the great land of snows, may live for 100 eons. Pour on him your blessings that his aspirations may be fulfilled. To you, our Arya Sangha, awakened and unsullied, of highest valour in unconquering the suffering of the wheel of life, with the transcendental wisdom that directly intuits the deeper truth, never departing from the destructible Vajrabodha Nirvana, we offer our prayers with intense devotion that Tenzin Gyatso, protector of the great land of snows, may live for 100 eons. Pour on him your blessings and his aspirations may be fulfilled. O you Dakas and Dakinis, heavenly beings of the three worlds, who appear in the highest paradises, the sacred places, the cremation grounds, who have innumerable experiences of the bliss of the void, supporting the yogis in their meditation on the excellent path. To you all we offer our prayers with intense devotion that Tenzin Gyatso, protector of the great land of snows, may live for 100 eons. Pour on him your blessings that his aspirations may be fulfilled. To the ocean of guardians of the teachings who possess the eye of transcendental wisdom, carrying on their matted locks the knot, symbolic of the vows they made to Vajradhara Buddha, the powerful ones who protect the teaching and upholders of the Dharma, we offer our prayers with intense devotion that Tenzin Gyatso, protector of the great land of snows, may live for 100 eons. Pour on him your blessings that his aspirations may be fulfilled. To all you guileless ones in whom we take the excellent refuge, we pray with intense devotion, humbly from our very heart, that the strength of these verses, now on Losan Tenzin Gyatso, he who has a power over speech, the kindly one, upholder of the Dharma, the great ocean, he who possesses the three secret powers, may be instructable, internal, and without end. That seated on his supreme unconquerable throne of the Vajra, he may live for 100 eons. Pour on him your blessings that his aspirations may be fulfilled. You who bear the burdens of the innumerable Buddhas, with courage carry on your shoulders the vast activities of the fully enlightened ones. Working for the wheel of all beings like the wish-fulfilling gem, the jewel of jewels, may your aspiration be perfectly fulfilled. By virtue of this, may the golden era be opened, like a gate to the great spaces, liberating all sentient beings, coming as the happiness of spring which comforts our sorrows, and helps the teaching of the Buddha to spread in all directions and in all ages. May it prosper to the summit of samsara nirvana. To you, with the lotus in your hand and the nectar stream of your blessing, strengthen our mind and bring it to maturity. May we be able to please you by practicing the Dharma, through accomplishing at all times the good deeds of the Bodhisattvas. May we reach nirvana. By the blessings of the wondrous Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, by the unassailable truth of the spiritual laws of cause and effect, by the unstained power of the pure mind, may the aim of my prayers soon be accomplished. Okay, we need to stop there, but we need to get home before it gets dark. So to say thank you very much to all of you for giving me this opportunity to be here and do this, and especially Fiona, who's worked so hard to do it. Thank you.
Josh, it's been amazing. We came for the group. Teaching. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Look forward to you coming back again.
Maybe in January, yeah?
Yeah.
Thank you. But do try to, not just, next time I come, I'll ask you the questions again and you have to answer them. Try to internalise it.
Thank you very much, Josh.
Thank you as well.
Yeah, I'll be alright tonight, Josh, because I can remember it from yesterday.
Oh really? Okay, good.
Careful now. My memory can last for a day.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, not at all, isn't it?
Yeah. So if you do take this job, when does it start?
End of January, beginning of February.
Oh, okay. Okay. Good luck, I'm sure you'll be offered it.
I think so.
Yeah.
It's just a question of, anyway, I'm sure we'll find it.
Yeah. You've got a train to catch, Josh.
Yeah.
What time is your train?
Do you know? Do you
Oh,
want me
you
to
better
check?
go then.
Okay.
Yeah, you better go. Are you going to be here for a few minutes?
No,
Fiona?
no.
Yeah, not for long though.
Can I
'cause I'm
just
gonna-
have a quick snack before I go?
Oh yeah. It's
won't
actually
be
going to be
long.
about 15 minutes.
No, I'll be
And then,
back in 10 minutes.
Right.
I've got keys, so I can lock up this.
Oh, right.
No, you're right, I'll only be 10 minutes. I just need to drink some milk and things before I go. It's a proper routine, isn't it? Military manoeuvres. What's this? Could do with 3 years retreat, let alone 3 months. Got
Yeah.
so much I want to learn.
3 days.
Hmm?
3 years, 3 months, 3 days.
Well, I've been given a second chance, I better use it.
Oh no, the photo. Monday morning.